Welcome. My name is Tim, and today I'm here to show you how to do a flow rate test on the Unist SmartFlow controller. Performing this test is a critical part to installing your controller, but with the SmartFlow, we've made this process as easy as possible. To start the flow test, we will navigate from the Home menu to the Settings display. From there, we will navigate to the Installation Settings display. Installation Settings display houses all of the pertinent information that is required to set up at time of system installation. From here, we can select the Output Flow Rate option. The Output Flow Rate and Log display shows the current calibrated flow rate as well as a history of the past 3 calibrated flow rates. If you are using a system with 2 fluids, it will show the calibrated flow rate for both tank A and tank B. The current flow rate is the topmost row in the table. To perform the flow test, you'll need the Unist supplied flow test kit. The kit contains 3 components: a fluid dispenser tube, a length of tubing equipped with a male quick connect fitting, and a graduated cylinder for measuring the volume of fluid. Now that we've seen the contents of the flow rate kit, we are ready to begin our flow test. So we'll select the Start Flow Rate Test button. The first step in the flow rate test is to select the output that you want to test the flow rate on. For our test, we're going to select output number 2. Since we selected to do the flow rate test from output number 2, we will connect our fluid flow rate kit to the second valve output on the system. Now we will connect the other end of the tube to the fluid dispenser tube and insert the fluid dispenser tube into the graduated cylinder. Hitting the next button brings us to the next step in the process, which is to prime the tubing in our flow test kit. To do this, we will press and hold the button to prime the fluid line on our connected output. Hold the prime button until the tubing in the flow test kit is completely full of fluid. It is okay if you get some fluid into the graduated cylinder. Next, the controller will ask us how much volume of fluid is in the graduated cylinder to start the test. In our case, it looks like we have about 70 milliliters of fluid, so we'll enter that here. After we've entered the beginning volume, we will perform the flow test. To do so, we will press and hold the dispense button on the display and dispense fluid into the graduated cylinder. A timer will automatically time how long the fluid is flowing for. Press and hold this button to dispense fluid until you have dispensed approximately 400 milliliters of fluid. Depending on your tank pressure and fluid, this could take anywhere from 10 seconds to up to a minute. It does not matter the exact stopping point, just make sure that you get at least 400 milliliters of fluid. Once you have dispensed the fluid, go to the next step and the controller will ask you to enter the ending volume of the flow test. In our case, we had about 415 milliliters of fluid. Once you've entered the ending volume of fluid for your flow test, hit the next button. The controller will display a message which says your calculated flow rate for the test and also a warning that the flow rate is only valid for the pressure at which this test was performed. You can accept this flow rate by pressing the green check mark. In our case, the flow rate was 8.5 milliliters per second, which is an acceptable flow rate. Typically, we like to have the flow rate between 3 and 10 milliliters per second. If your flow rate is outside of this range, adjust your tank pressure accordingly and repeat the test. Now that we've accepted that flow rate, the output flow rate and log display shows 8.5 milliliters per second as the active flow rate. This flow rate will be used for setting up any new jobs on the SmartFlow controller. And that is the process for performing a flow rate test on the SmartFlow controller.